I've been field testing the BSA Ultra SE for several months now. It initially appealed to me as it's just an ultra compact gun, just 82 centimeters long. This one's a bit longer now because I've fitted the fire arc silencer, which has really hushed down the muzzle blast. And I'd say this gun does need a silencer. It's got quite a bark to it. It's got a 1/2 inch UNF thread, so you can fit a silencer. Nonetheless, it's still a pretty compact gun. It lends itself brilliantly around farm buildings. I've used it for ratting quite often through the winter with a night vision unit, and it's proving to be a great little hunting combo. Starting with the stock, this one's got the no frills beech woodwork. It's ambidextrous, which initially concerned me because that can sometimes feel like a bit of a compromise. But to be honest with you, as ambidextrous stocks go, this is a good one. It's good crisp checkering at the fore end and on the pistol grip, so it grips nicely. One thing I would have preferred with big hands is a bit more of a scallop here for my thumb, but then it is an ambidextrous stock. I would have expected it to be the way it is, and it functions perfectly well. The cheek piece also looks a bit lower than most for scope use. However, I've got a 50mm objective lens on this one, so the scope's relatively high and it lines up perfectly well for me. Being such a ultra short model, the fore end of the stock is quite short, but I've never found myself reaching for the cylinder. It shoulders perfectly comfortably, so all in all, for an ambidextrous stock, it's a great little performer. It also comes in a range of synthetic versions, camouflage, greens. There's also a really bright pink version, which wouldn't be so good in the hunting field, but would obviously be very eye-catching on an HFT range. In line with the proportions of the rest of the gun, the cylinder is quite small, but it gives a reasonable shot count. This version 177 from a 232 bar fill gives about 40 shots at full power, so that's just shy of 12 foot-pounds. The more efficient 22 and .25 calibers are giving 50 shots, and that's just from a 200 bar fill. So in terms of shot capacity, it's perfectly adequate. I can't remember the last time that I got through more than 40 shots on a hunting trip. The finish of the gun is excellent throughout. It's really well engineered, and for a relatively small gun, it's pretty robust. This one's had plenty of knocks in the field and it's stood up to them ever so well. I've owned several multi-shot BSAs over the years, and this latest version of the magazine, it's evolved considerably, much smoother now. As I said earlier, I've been testing this gun for months. I've not had a single magazine jam with it. So it's 10 pellets in there, it's ready to go. It's just a question of slipping the magazine back in, pushing the bolt forward and returning the magazine retaining clip. It's now cocked, loaded, ready to fire. So I'll pop the safety catch into safe. It's not the most elegant safety catch in the world, but it's in the right place as far as I'm concerned. It's well away from the trigger. It's easy to thumb it forwards and backwards. It's tough and it does the job. Right, so that's a very basic overview of the Ultra SE. I think the best thing we can do now is to get it out on the range so I can show you how it performs. The trigger on the Ultra's fine. Personally, I'd prefer a slightly wider blade, maybe slightly flatter as well, just so I can spread the pad of my finger a little bit more across it. This just feels a bit skinny. However, the actual function of it is great. Out of the box, it was a little bit heavy for my liking, but it was still crisp and predictable. I've lightened it off slightly. I'm no engineer, so that was a fairly straightforward process. Managed to do that absolutely fine, and I've now got it set to its light, but it's remained that crispness. It's still nice and predictable. Really nice trigger unit. It's not until you cycle the bolt of the Ultra that you appreciate the improvement that the new bolt action's made to the gun. I had one of the early Ultra models. In fact, I still got it. I absolutely loved the gun, but reloading and recocking was a real nuisance, because you had to press the button at the back, the pin dropped out, you pushed that forwards again to seat a pellet into the breech, and then there was a cocking knob at the front of the gun. The whole process was a rigmarole. The bolt action on this now just makes it so much smoother, so much quicker. I know there's been some criticism of the bolt for being a little bit too small. I get on fine with it. Sometimes it feels like it would be a bit easier to cycle if it was larger when you're shooting with gloves on, but by and large, it's perfectly good. Right, it's a blustery day, so I've actually brought the target into 25 metres so I can do the gun justice, because much further than that the wind's difficult to predict and you wouldn't really see what it's capable of in these conditions. The dot I've marked on the card here is about 1 centimetre, so you see that group, there's 5 shots in there, practically single hole, absolutely terrific group. Now BSA's cold hammer forged barrels are notoriously accurate, and you can see they certainly do the trick with the Ultra. Charging's really straightforward with the quick fill adapter. It's simply a case of off with the dust cap, in with the adapter, up to just over 230 bar. And that's it, filled up and ready to go. There's actually a gauge, there's a pressure gauge underneath the fore end of the stock. It's in 50 bar denomination, so it's not particularly specific, but it serves a purpose for letting you know when you're getting low on charge. To sum up, the BSA Ultra SE is a very pointable, very accurate little gun. I reckon I could squeeze a little bit more accuracy out of it with a dedicated right hand stock, but that is a tiny niggle. It performs brilliantly as it is. And it is a diminutive little gun. It weighs in at just over 2.5 kilos, so it would suit shooters of a smaller build, but equally, yeah, I'm a big chap and I've got on perfectly well with it. Its price tag, the recommended retail price, rolls in at just under £550, which sets it up against some tough competition, but it's a hard hitting, smooth cycling, full powered air rifle. I'm well impressed with it.